wide shot. A Wyoming street in summer rain. 3 days of it. The boards groaning. The mud the color of old coffee. A whole town moving with its head down. Closer now. A storefront with a broken roof. A figure beneath it, slumped. A woman, or what is left of one. Her hand is open, empty. She has been holding it open for a very long time. Across the street, a man in a clean coat, the richest hand in the county. He has a small boy by the wrist, 7 years old. Brown eyes. The boy has stopped walking. The boy is staring. The boy says one word. Mama. The man's hat lifts in the wind. His mouth shapes a name he buried 3 summers ago. Under a stone. With the whole town watching. The rain keeps coming. Nobody moves. The rain had been falling on Cedar Falls, Wyoming for 3 days straight. Not the soft kind. The kind that came down like the sky had a grudge. The kind that turned Main Street into a brown river. That filled the boot prints of every man and woman who'd walked through it. That made the wood of the buildings groan like old bones. Nathaniel Whitlock pulled his coat tighter and held his son's hand. Caleb was 7 years old. Caleb had his mother's brown eyes. Caleb had not let go of his father's hand for the last 3 blocks. Papa, keep walking, son. Papa, my boots are full. I know, son. Papa, when are we going to the bank? Soon, son. 3 more blocks. 3 more blocks. That was what Nathaniel had been telling himself for 10 minutes. 3 more blocks. Past the saloon. Past the feed store. Past the old Henson building with the broken roof. 3 more blocks, and then he'd sign the papers. And then he'd take his boy home. And then he'd sit by the fire with a glass of bourbon. And then he'd remember that he was the richest man in the county. That he had 200 head of cattle. That he had a son who looked like the woman he had loved. That he had a wife who was buried in the Cedar Falls churchyard 3 summers gone. Papa, Caleb, walk. But the boy had stopped. Nathaniel felt the resistance in his son's small hand before he saw it. Like a colt planting its feet. Like a rope going tight. The boy was looking across the street. The boy was not blinking. The boy's mouth had come open in a way Nathaniel had not seen in 3 years. Caleb, son, look at me. Papa, son now. Papa, that's Mama. The street kept moving around them. A wagon splashed through. A man cursed at his horse. Somewhere a dog was barking under a porch. None of it touched the boy. The boy was made of stone. The boy was made of something Nathaniel did not have a name for. Caleb, you do not say that. You do not ever say that. Do you hear me? But the boy was already pulling, already crossing, already letting the wagon wheel pass within an inch of his small shoulder. Caleb. Nathaniel lunged. He caught his son by the back of his coat. He hauled him onto the boardwalk on the far side. The boy did not fight. The boy was crying now. Not the way a child cries when he's scared. Not the way a child cries when he's lost. The way a child cries when something inside him has cracked open. When a piece of him He didn't know he has just come awake. "That's Mama, Papa. That's Mama. That's Mama. That's Mama. Your mother is dead, Caleb. That's her. We buried her. That's her. You were 4 years old. You were there. You held my hand at the grave. You wore the little black coat your grandmother made you. You." Papa looked, and Nathaniel looked. He didn't want to. He didn't want to. He looked anyway. Under the broken roof of the old Henson building, out of the rain, or what was left of out of the rain, a woman was sitting on the wet boards, or what was left of a woman. Her dress had been blue once, maybe. Now it was the color of the mud at her feet. Her hair hung down over her face in wet ropes. Her hands were folded in her lap. One palm was open. There was nothing in it. There had been nothing in it for a long time by the look of the palm. She did not look up. She was 100 women Nathaniel had ridden past in his life. She was 100 shapes on 100 porches in 100 bad towns from Cheyenne to El Paso. She was the kind of woman a man like Nathaniel Whitlock had taught himself not to see. Because seeing them was a luxury. Because seeing them meant stopping. Because stopping meant deciding. Because deciding meant guilt. He had told his son more than once that it was not a man's place to sort the deserving from the lazy. He had said it last Christmas. He had said it on the church steps. He had said it. The woman lifted her head. Nathaniel stopped breathing. He didn't know he had stopped. His lungs only told him about it later, after the rain washed a long streak of brown off her cheekbone, after he saw the way her jaw came forward when she swallowed, after he saw the scar on her chin he did not remember, the hollow under her eye he did not remember, the hunger he did not remember, but the eyes were Eliza's. "Sir." The voice was a ruin, cracked, cold burned, half a whisper. "Sir, a piece of bread, anything." The hat came off Nathaniel's head. He didn't tell it to. It just left. It hit the boardwalk and rolled into the gutter, and a brown wave of street water swallowed it whole. Eliza. The woman flinched, like the name was a hand, like it had touched her. Don't call me that, sir. Please. I won't trouble your boy. I'll go. Just bread. Anything. Eliza Ashford. Sir. Eliza Ashford Whitlock. She tried to stand. Her legs would not let her. She got halfway up off the boards, and her knees went out from under her like a calf's. She caught herself on the broken door frame. Her hand slid down it. She slid down with it. Her face hit the wet boards. She did not lift it again. Nathaniel was off the boardwalk before his coat finished moving. He hit his knees in 3 inches of summer mud. He pulled her up out of the water with one arm. She weighed nothing. She weighed less than the saddle on his horse back at the hitching post. She weighed less than the boy he had carried to bed every night for the last 3 summers, because the boy would not sleep in his own room unless his father walked him to it. "Doc, somebody fetch the doctor. Doc Holloway, now." The street had stopped. The whole street. The wagon driver had pulled up. The two men on the saloon porch had set their drinks down. A woman in the dry goods doorway had her hand over her mouth. Mercy Cedar Falls had turned, and it was watching its richest man kneel in the middle of Main Street in the rain with his arms around a beggar woman who had not eaten in a week. "Papa," Caleb's small boots splashed down beside his father's knees. "Papa, I told you. Papa, I told you. Caleb, boardwalk." "No, Papa, she's my mama." A hand landed on Nathaniel's shoulder. Heavy, steady, wet. Mr. Whitlock, Sheriff Jacob Mercer, hat pulled low, rain coming off the brim in a sheet. "Mr. Whitlock, what in the name of heaven are you doing in the middle of my street? This woman—" "I see her, sir." "Sheriff, look at her." And Mercer looked. He looked for a long time, longer than a sheriff should have to look at a beggar in the rain, longer than was polite, longer than was easy. "Lord have mercy," he said finally, very quiet, like a man saying it to himself in a dark room. "You see it. Sir, let's get her up out of this mud first. Let's get her dry. Then we'll talk." Dr. Ezekiel Holloway came running from the bank corner. 62 years old and still moved like a younger man when the work called. He had his bag slamming against his hip. He took one look at the woman in Nathaniel's arms and stopped walking. "Nathaniel. Doc. Nathaniel. That isn't— I know what it isn't supposed to be, Doc. Help me." Holloway knelt down in the mud. He did not seem to notice the mud. He took the woman's wrist. He pressed his fingers against the side of her neck. He pulled back one eyelid, then the other. He closed them gentle, the way a man closes a Bible. "She's alive, barely. Doc, we need her dry and we need her warm, and we need her in a bed within 10 minutes or she will not see supper time. The hotel. The hotel will not take her. They will take her. Nathaniel, they will take her, Doc, or I will buy the hotel by sundown and turn out every last living soul inside it." The sheriff did not argue. Doc Holloway did not argue. The wagon driver did not argue. The whole of Cedar Falls did not argue. Because when Nathaniel Whitlock said a thing in that particular voice, the county had learned over 12 summers to step out of the way. He stood up with her in his arms. She weighed nothing. Caleb walked beside him. One small hand wrapped around two of his mother's wet, mud-streaked fingers. The boy did not let go for the whole walk across Main Street, did not let go on the steps of the hotel, did not let go in the lobby, did not let go on the stairs. The desk clerk started to speak. He looked at Nathaniel's face. He stopped. "Best room. Top of the stairs. Now." "Yes, Mr. Whitlock. Hot water, clean blankets. Broth weak, not strong. Whiskey for the doctor." "Yes, sir." "And nobody comes up these stairs without my word. Not a deputy, not a banker, not the Lord Jesus himself." "Yes, sir." The room was at the end of the second-floor hallway. The bed had a white quilt. Nathaniel laid her down on it like she might break under her own weight. The quilt went brown under her at once. "Step out, Mr. Whitlock. Let me work." "Doc, out. Both of you." Nathaniel did not move. Caleb did not move either. Caleb walked around the foot of the bed, climbed up onto the chair by the headboard, took the woman's hand again. He sat there, 7 years old, soaking wet, knees pressed together, hand wrapped around his mother's fingers. Doc Holloway looked at the boy. He looked at Nathaniel. He let out a long, slow breath. All right. The boy stays. You stand in that hallway, Nathaniel Whitlock, and you let me work. Nathaniel stepped into the hallway. He closed the door behind him with the quiet of a man closing the door on a coffin. Sheriff Mercer was waiting at the top of the stairs. Mr. Whitlock. Jacob. Mr. Whitlock, don't say it. Jacob, we buried her 3 summers ago. I know what we did, Nathaniel. In the Cedar Falls churchyard, with the whole town watching, with Judge Beaumont reading the eulogy. I helped lower the box. I held the rope. I felt the weight of her go down. Your boy is grieving Nathaniel. He saw a hungry woman in a rainstorm. His mind made her into something she ain't. It happens. Boys lose their mamas. They see them everywhere. Jacob. Sir. I knew her voice the second she opened her mouth. Sir. I knew her eyes the second she lifted her head. Sir. And I'm telling you, Jacob Mercer is a man who buried his wife in that churchyard 3 summers ago and has not slept a whole night since the woman in that bed is Eliza Whitlock. Mercer was quiet for a long time. The rain hit the hotel roof above them in long, even sheets. Then who, the sheriff said, is in the box? I don't know. Then we got more than one problem. I know that too, Jacob. Downstairs, the saloon doors banged open and shut. The street outside the hotel was already filling up. Word travels in a town like Cedar Falls, the way fire travels in dry grass. By supper time, the whole town would be talking. By sunup, the whole county. By the end of the week, the railroad would carry it east. Nathaniel leaned against the wall and slid down it. He sat on the floor of the hallway with his coat dripping around him. The water pooled under his boots in a brown half circle. Jacob, yeah, I want you to do something for me. Name it. I want you to ride to the churchyard tonight. Take 2 men. Take lanterns, take shovels. The sheriff did not speak for a moment. Nathaniel. Open the box, Jacob. That is not a thing a man does lightly. I am not asking you lightly. The sheriff looked down at him. Long, steady, wet. All right. Tonight, Jacob. Tonight. The bedroom door opened a crack. Doc Holloway's voice came through it, soft. Nathaniel. Yeah. She is awake. Nathaniel was on his feet before the doctor finished the word. She is awake and she is asking for the boy. What did she call him? The doctor hesitated. She called him Caleb Nathaniel. She called him by his name. Nathaniel pushed the door open. The woman on the bed was propped on 2 pillows. Her face had been washed. Her hair had been combed back from her forehead. Her hands were trembling on the white quilt. The boy had not moved. Caleb had both of his small hands wrapped around one of hers. He had his cheek pressed against her wrist. She was looking at him the way a starving woman looks at bread. Mama. She closed her eyes. The tears slid down both sides of her face into the pillow. 2 thin streams. steady, like she had been holding them 3 summers, and they had finally been told they were allowed. "Mama, don't go away again." "Caleb." "Mama, promise me." "Mama, promise." Her eyes opened. She saw Nathaniel in the doorway. Her face changed. "Nathaniel." "Eliza." "Nathaniel, I did not. I did not mean for you to find me. I swear before God, I did not." "Eliza, what in heaven—" "You were supposed to walk past. Walk past my own wife in the mud. Yes, Nathaniel. You were supposed to walk past. You always walked past beggars. You said it 10 times a year. You said it last Christmas on the church steps. I know you said it because I was there." He stepped into the room. 1 step. "Where were you last Christmas?" "On the church steps." "Eliza, I had a shawl over my head. You did not see me. You walked past with the boy. You bought him a sugar stick at the dry goods store. He had 2 ribbons on his coat, red. The buttons were missing on the 3rd one. You held his hand on the left side because his right glove had a hole in the thumb." Nathaniel could not speak. "Eliza, how long?" 3 years. 3 years, Nathaniel. I have been here, off and on, in the hills, in the mining camps, in the church alleys. I have watched you cross this street 100 times. I have watched my boy grow tall enough to reach the top button of his coat without standing on his toes." Caleb made a small sound. He buried his face in her wrist. "Why, Nathaniel? Why, Eliza, why did you not come home?" Her mouth trembled. She tried to speak. She could not. She closed her eyes. She opened them. "Because if I came home, somebody was gonna die." He stepped closer. 2 steps. 3. "Who?" "Don't make me say his name. Not in front of the boy." "Eliza." "Nathaniel." "Who?" She turned her head on the pillow. She looked her husband in the eye for the first time in 3 summers. Her voice was low, steady, burned clean. "You really thought I died of fever, Nathaniel? Eliza, you really stood at that grave and thought your wife had died of fever in the night? What are you? You buried the wrong woman, Nathaniel Whitlock." The room stopped. The rain on the roof was the only sound. Doc Holloway had stopped moving. Sheriff Mercer had stopped on the stairs. Caleb's eyes were huge above his mother's wrist. "Eliza, Nathaniel, who was in the box?" She closed her eyes. "Eliza Ashford Whitlock, who was in the box in the Cedar Falls churchyard with my wife's name carved on the stone." Her mouth shaped a word. She could not make it come out. She tried again. "Adeline." The name hit Nathaniel like a fist to the chest. "Adeline is dead." "Yes." "Your sister?" "Yes." "Your twin?" "Yes, Nathaniel. The fever did take her. It took her in my arms on a Tuesday morning before the sun came up. She did not cry. She had cried all her tears in the night." He sat down on the edge of the bed. His legs would not hold him standing. "And they made me." "Who?" "Nathaniel." Who made you Eliza? You know who. Say it. Not in front of Caleb, please. He calls him uncle. He sat on his knee at Christmas. Please. Eliza Ashford Whitlock. You say his name. She was crying now. She did not look away. Her voice did not shake. Augustus. Eliza. Augustus Beaumont. The name landed in the middle of the room like a stone dropped in still water. Judge Augustus Beaumont, 73 years old. Wife named Cordelia. Big white house at the end of Maple Street. Read the eulogy at Eliza Whitlock's funeral 3 summers ago. Sat at the Whitlock supper table every Sunday since. Held Caleb on his knee at the last 3 Christmases. Gave the boy a small wooden train for his birthday in April. Said the blessing over the Easter ham. Judge Augustus Beaumont, of the Beaumont line, who had no children, whose wife had lost 4, who had told Nathaniel once sitting on the porch with a glass of bourbon and the sun going down behind the cottonwoods, that there was no greater grief in this life than to be the last of a name. Nathaniel stood up out of the bed so fast that the chair beside it tipped and hit the wall. Augustus Beaumont sat at my supper table last Sunday. I know, Augustus Beaumont held my son on his knee at Christmas. I know, Nathaniel. Augustus Beaumont read the eulogy over your sister's coffin. I know. Eliza. That is why I never came home. That is why I begged in the rain instead of knocking on your door. Because Augustus told me. Augustus told me what would happen to Caleb if I ever set foot in this town. What did he tell you? She shook her head. What did he tell you, Eliza? He told me he would put my baby in a grave next to mine before the year was out, and he would do it slow. Caleb made a small sound. The smallest sound a 7-year-old can make. The kind of sound a child makes when he understands for the first time in his life that the grown-ups around him have been carrying something he was not supposed to know about. Eliza's hand tightened on his. Sweet boy, look at Mama. Look at Mama Caleb. He looked. He never touched you. He never touched one hair on your head. Mama made sure. Mama was always close enough to make sure. Mama is here now. Mama, don't go. I will not, baby. Promise. Mama, promise. I promise. Nathaniel was already at the door. Doc. Yes. You stay in this room. You do not leave that woman's side until I come back. Where are you going, Nathaniel? Jacob. Sheriff Mercer stepped up from the stairs. Jacob. You do not open the grave tonight. All right. You ride to my ranch. You take 6 men. You arm them. All right. And you bring them to the front door of the White House at the end of Maple Street. The sheriff went still. Nathaniel. Jacob. That is Judge Beaumont's house. I know whose house it is, Jacob. On what charge, Nathaniel? You do not have a charge yet, Jacob. You will have one before sundown. Right now, I want every man you trust standing on his porch. I do not want him on a horse. I do not want him on a train. I do not want him sending a telegram. I want 6 rifles between him and the edge of this town. Nathaniel, I am the law in this county. Then be it Jacob, be it tonight. Mercer looked past Nathaniel into the room. He looked at the woman in the bed. He looked at the small hand wrapped around her fingers. He looked at the boy whose face was pressed against his mother's wrist. For the first time in 3 summers, he tipped his hat. I reckon I will. He went down the stairs, 3 at a time. Doc Holloway was already lifting Eliza's other wrist, taking her pulse again, counting, his lips moving. Caleb had not moved off the bed. Caleb. Yes, Papa. Nathaniel crossed the room. He sat down on the edge of the bed. He laid his hand on his son's wet hair. Son. Yes, Papa. You take care of your mama until I come home. Yes, Papa. You do not let her up out of that bed. No, sir. You do not let nobody through that door but the doctor. No, sir. You are the man of this room until your papa comes back. Yes, Papa. Nathaniel bent down. He kissed the boy's forehead. He kissed his wife's hand. He picked his hat up off the floor where it had fallen. He walked down the stairs of the Cedar Falls Hotel. The clerk did not speak to him. The men in the lobby did not speak to him. The women in the lobby did not speak to him. The saloon doors across the street banged open in the wind. A dozen faces turned to watch him come out into the rain. Maple Street ran along the south end of Cedar Falls. The rich men's street, the one where the houses had picket fences painted last summer. The one where the gardens were not gardens because the rich men did not work them. They paid young hands from the river settlement to keep them. The big white house at the end had green shutters. There was a lamp burning in the front window. Nathaniel stopped at the gate. He did not open it. He waited. He did not have to wait long. The front door opened. Judge Augustus Beaumont stood in the doorway, tall, 68 inches of him, hair gone fully white at the temples, and still iron gray on top. Black coat, white napkin in his hand. The supper hour. The good cuts of beef on the table. The bourbon already poured. The wife already seated. The Beaumont life. The Beaumont order. The Beaumont 52 years of marriage and 4 lost children and no living heir. Nathaniel. The voice was warm. The voice was the voice of a man who had read the eulogy over a coffin 3 summers ago and meant every word. Nathaniel, what in the world are you doing standing in my yard in this rain? Come in. Come in. Supper is just finishing, but Cordelia will set another plate. You know how she... Augustus. Son, my wife is in the Cedar Falls Hotel. The smile did not change. That was how Nathaniel knew. That right there. A man who had not done a thing wrong. A man who had buried a friend's wife 3 summers ago and stood at the graveside. That man's face would have moved. That man's mouth would have opened. That man would have said, "What?" Judge Augustus Beaumont's smile did not change 1 inch. Nathaniel, friend, are you well? Step out onto the porch, Augustus. It's wet, son. I'll catch my death. Step out onto the porch. The judge looked at him for a long measuring moment. Then he stepped out onto the porch. All right, I am out. Now will you tell me what in heaven is? You knew it was a woman. I beg your... I said my wife. I did not say what you'd heard. I did not say a story. I did not say a rumor. I said, my wife is in the hotel. And you, Augustus Beaumont, you said, friend, are you well? As if you already knew. As if you had been waiting for someone to come tell you. The judge's smile flickered. There it was. Nathaniel, the whole town saw you carry her up the steps. The news travels. How did you know it was a woman, Augustus? Son, you are not well. How did you know? The hoofbeats came up Maple Street fast. 6 riders, lanterns swinging. Sheriff Jacob Mercer at the front with his hat pulled low and his rifle across his saddle. Mr. Beaumont, Mercer called from the road. Beaumont's face did the thing Nathaniel had been waiting for. It went pale, all at once, like a dish rag when the dirty water gets wrung out of it. Sheriff, Mr. Beaumont, you're going to want to step away from that door. Jacob Mercer, this is my home. I know whose home it is, Augustus. Step away from the door. Mercer swung down off the horse. He walked up the path. He did not draw his rifle. He did not have to. Augustus Beaumont, on the authority of a woman in the Cedar Falls Hotel who is breathing when she ought not to be. That woman is a vagrant sheriff. Is that so? That woman is a beggar from God knows where who has heard of Mr. Whitlock's grief and has come to take advantage. Cordelia, the judge called over his shoulder smoothly into the warm house behind him. Cordelia, dear, tell these gentlemen where I have been all week. A woman appeared in the doorway behind him, 55 years old, gray-haired, small. Her hands were wet from washing dishes. Her dress was dark blue. She did not lift her eyes. He has been at home, Sheriff, all week. He has not even been to town. Thank you, Cordelia. He has been at home with me, she said again, like she was reciting it, like she had said it 100 times in her head before she said it out loud. Nathaniel looked at her. He had known Cordelia Beaumont for 15 years. He had drunk tea in her parlor. He had eaten her Christmas pie. He had held her hand at his own wife's funeral while she wept. She would not meet his eyes. Mrs. Beaumont. Mr. Whitlock, please. Mrs. Beaumont, look at me. Cordelia, the judge said, very gentle. Tell Mr. Whitlock what you told me at supper tonight. About the boy. The woman went still. Augustus. Tell him Cordelia. Augustus, please. What about my boy Augustus? The judge smiled. Mrs. Beaumont was just saying Nathaniel. At supper. How fond she has grown of little Caleb. How she would hate to see anything happen to him. In all this excitement, Nathaniel did not move. He did not breathe. What did you say? Anything happened to him, Nathaniel? This town has wild men in it. You know that. A boy of 7 in a hotel room with a strange woman, and the whole town stirred up. A boy can wander. A boy can be taken. A boy can be, you son of a Nathaniel. Sheriff Mercer's hand was on his arm. Jacob, you hear him. I hear him. You hear him threaten my boy. I hear him, Nathaniel. Jacob, you go. What? You go right now. You go back to that hotel. You stand outside that door. You do not leave it. And I will deal with Judge Beaumont. Jacob. Nathaniel Whitlock. You go to your boy. Nathaniel looked at Augustus Beaumont one more time. The judge was smiling again. Wider this time. The smile of a man who was being arrested in handcuffs and knew all the way down to the soles of his good leather boots that he was going to walk out of a jailhouse before the week was through. Give my best to your wife, Nathaniel. Nathaniel turned around. He walked back down Maple Street faster than he had walked up it. He was running by the time he hit Main. He was sprinting by the time he saw the hotel. The clerk was on his feet behind the desk. Mr. Whitlock, has anyone come up those stairs? No, sir, no one. But what? But there was a man at the kitchen door, sir. 10 minutes ago, asking about a guest. The cook would not tell him nothing. He went away. What did he look like? Tall, sir. Black coat. He had a what? He had a white scar on his upper lip. Nathaniel was up the stairs 3 at a time. The door of the room was closed. He pushed it open without knocking. Doc Holloway was standing in the middle of the room with a kitchen knife from the supper tray in his hand. Caleb was sitting up on the bed in front of his mother. The boy's small body was between her and the door. Eliza was awake. Eliza was crying. Caleb had not moved. Doc. Nathaniel. A man tried the door. When? 5 minutes ago. He turned the knob soft. I thought it was you. I called out. He ran. Down the back stairs. Nathaniel looked at his son. Caleb had not let go of the kitchen knife. Caleb. Yes, Papa. You did good, son. He didn't get him, Papa. No, sir. He did not. I held the knife, too, Papa. Doc gave me a knife. Nathaniel looked at Doc Holloway. The doctor shrugged, not quite ashamed. He asked for one Nathaniel. I am not going to argue with a 7-year-old defending his mama. Nathaniel crossed the room. He sat down on the bed next to his son. He put his arm around the boy. He looked at his wife. Eliza, Nathaniel. He's coming. I know. He's not going to wait. I know. Eliza. Nathaniel. He told me. He told me on his porch. He said our boy could wander. He said our boy could be taken. He stood in his own doorway with his wife behind him, and he told me what was coming for our son. Eliza closed her eyes. She opened them. She looked at her husband, the brown eyes that had walked her down the aisle of the Ashford Church 12 summers ago when she was 20, and Adeline had been her maid of honor. The same eyes, just older. Nathaniel. Yes. He is not getting my boy. No, ma'am. He has taken 3 years from us. He has. He is not taking 1 more hour. No, ma'am. She lifted her thin hand. She pressed it to his cheek. Her fingers were cold. Her palm was rough in places it had never been rough before. The pads of her fingers had old calluses. From what? From 3 summers of what? He did not ask. He covered her hand with his own. Outside the hotel on the boardwalk across the street, in the shadow of the saloon's overhang, a man in a black coat was leaning on the porch post. Tall, white scar on his upper lip. He was looking up at the window of the corner room on the second floor. He did not move. He just watched. The rain came down harder. Cedar Falls held its breath, and somewhere on Maple Street, in a holding cell at the back of Sheriff Mercer's jailhouse, Judge Augustus Beaumont sat on a wooden bench with his hands folded in his lap. He was still smiling. He was still waiting. He was still, after 52 years of marriage and 4 lost children, and an entire county's worth of borrowed power, the patient man he had always been. He had time. He had men. He had a wife who would say what she was told, and he had spent 3 years waiting for the woman in the hotel to make exactly one mistake: coming home. The man with the scar did not move for a long time. He stood under the saloon overhang. He smoked a cigarette. He let it burn down between his fingers without taking the last drag. He looked up at the corner window of the Cedar Falls Hotel. Then he tipped his hat at no one, and he stepped backward into the saloon, and he was gone. Nathaniel saw it from behind the curtain. He let the curtain fall. Doc. Yeah. He's not gone. I know he's not gone, Nathaniel. He went into the saloon. I saw. He'll come out the back. He'll circle. He'll wait. I know, Nathaniel. Eliza was sitting up against the pillows now. She had eaten half a bowl of broth. She had drunk a cup of weak tea. She had not let go of Caleb's hand once. The boy had crawled fully onto the bed. He had laid his cheek against her shoulder. His small fingers were curled around 2 of hers, like a baby's. Eliza. Yes. Who is he? She closed her eyes. Eliza. The man with the scar. Who is he? His name is Cole Ransom. Doc Holloway looked up from the wash basin. Cole Ransom. You know him, Doc. I patched a knife wound on a man named Cole Ransom 2 summers ago. He came in from Laramie. He said he worked for a freight company. He does not work for a freight company. No. He works for Augustus. For 3 years, Nathaniel. He is the one. He is the one who came to my kitchen door the morning Adeline died. He is the one who carried her out the back. He is the one who put her in my coffin in the back of Augustus's wagon. He is the one who poured the laudanum into my coffee. He is the one who held my hand on the Bible at the funeral when the deacon prayed over Adeline's box and said my name. Caleb's eyes were huge. He was listening. He was listening to every word. He was 7 years old. He was learning in real time that the man at the saloon door who had tried to come into his mother's room had also been the man who carried his aunt out the back of the kitchen on the morning she died. Eliza. Yes, baby. That man. Yes, Caleb. He took Aunt Adeline out. He did, sweet boy, and he put her in your box. He did. And he held your hand on the Bible. He did, baby. That man, Caleb said, very quiet, is a bad man. Yes, sweet boy. That man is a bad man. Nathaniel sat down on the edge of the bed. He could not look at his son. He could not look at his wife. He looked at his hands. His hands were shaking, not from cold, from something else. From the slow, terrible understanding that Augustus Beaumont had not been alone in this thing for 3 summers. That Cedar Falls was full of men who had been paid. That the white scar in the saloon door was one face of a thing with many faces. Eliza. Yes. How many? How many what, Nathaniel? How many men in this town? Who knew? She did not answer right away. She lifted her hand. She touched his cheek. Her thumb traced the line of his jaw. Nathaniel. Yes. Half this town owes him money. He closed his eyes. Half this town has had a paper bought up by Augustus Beaumont in the last 3 years. Eliza, the bank, the freight company, the lumber yard, the doctor's house, the deacon's mortgage, the saloon's note, Lawyer Pendleton's daughter's house in Denver. Doc. The doctor did not lift his head. Doc Holloway. Yes, Nathaniel. Does he hold the paper on your house? The doctor was a long time answering. He holds it, Nathaniel. He has held it for 2 years. I always meant to tell you. Doc. Nathaniel. I am still in this room. I gave a kitchen knife to your boy. I have been your doctor for 16 years, and I am still your doctor. That is where I stand. Nathaniel let out a long breath. He nodded once. All right, Doc. All right. Liza watched the 2 men. Her eyes moved between them. There is more, Nathaniel. Tell me. The bank. What about the bank? Walter Thornton. Nathaniel's head came up. Walter. Yes. Walter Thornton. Who stood beside me at our wedding? Who was best man? Who held the ring? Yes, Nathaniel. What about Walter? She closed her eyes. She opened them. She looked at him steady. I wrote 3 letters. What? In 3 summers, Nathaniel. I wrote 3 letters. To you. From 3 different mining camps. Different towns. Different states. I paid drifters and laundresses and freight men 2 cents a letter to mail them for me. Eliza. All 3 came back. What? All 3. Marked. Recipient deceased. Stamped at the Cedar Falls post office. Eliza. Walter Nathaniel. Walter held them. Walter stamped them. Walter sent them back. Nathaniel could not speak because Walter Thornton had carried Nathaniel's wedding ring in his coat pocket on the day Nathaniel married Eliza Ashford. Because Walter Thornton had given the toast at the supper. Because Walter Thornton had wept at Eliza's funeral 3 summers ago. Wept out loud in front of the whole town with his face in his hands. Why? Nathaniel said. Why would Walter? His son. His son. His son in San Francisco. Augustus paid the debt. $2,000 in cards. Augustus holds the paper. And Augustus told Walter what to do with my letters. Eliza. Yes. How did you find this out? A laundress in a mining camp west of Denver. She had a sister who worked in the Cedar Falls post office 2 years ago. She saw Walter take a letter out of the bag and put it back. Same handwriting as the one I had paid her to mail the week before. Nathaniel put his hands over his face. For a long moment, just his hands. The room was quiet. Caleb did not move. Eliza did not move. Doc Holloway did not move. When Nathaniel took his hands away, his eyes were wet, but he was not crying. Eliza. Yes. How many other people? I do not know all of them, Nathaniel, but Augustus has been buying. For 3 summers, he has been buying. And every man whose paper he holds is a man whose mouth he owns. All right. Nathaniel. All right. Eliza. He stood up. He walked to the window. He looked out at the street. The rain had let up some. Not stopped, but less. The street was still a brown river. The saloon doors across the way had not opened in 20 minutes. Cole Ransom had not come out, which did not mean Cole Ransom was inside. Doc. Yeah. I need you to do something. All right. I need you to go to my ranch. Now. Now, tonight. The rain has slowed. The road will be ugly, but it will be passable. Why? Because there is a wooden horse on a shelf in my son's bedroom, and I need it. Caleb sat up. Papa. Yes, son. My horse. Yes, son. Why do you need my horse, Papa? Eliza turned her head toward the boy on the pillow. Caleb. Yes, Mama. Do you remember the wooden horse Mama carved you? The boy's eyes went very wide. Yes, Mama. The little one, the brown one, the one with the painted eye. Yes, Mama. It's on my shelf, by the window. Papa polishes it on Sundays. He told me it was there, so you could see it from heaven. Eliza made a sound that was not quite a sob. She pressed her hand over her mouth. Caleb, sweet boy. Yes, Mama. That horse has a secret in it. A secret. There is a piece in its belly. If you turn the head 3 times to the left and then pull, gentle, the belly opens. Nathaniel turned away from the window. What is in it, Eliza? A letter, Nathaniel. I wrote a letter. The morning Adeline died, after Augustus left my kitchen, before they came for me. I wrote it on the back of a feed receipt with the lead from a pencil. I rolled it up. I put it inside the horse. I sealed the head back on with candle wax. Eliza. I knew Nathaniel. I knew even then that if I came home, Augustus would do what he said he would do to my boy. So I wrote the letter for the day my baby was old enough to open the horse and know what, Eliza? That his mama did not leave him, that she was sent by a man whose name was written on that paper, by a man who came to her kitchen door on the morning her sister died and said the things he said. Nathaniel was already at the door. Doc, I'm going. You take old Silas with you. All right. You go through the river bottom, not the road. Nathaniel, the river bottom is up to a horse's belly in this rain. I know what it is. The road has eyes on it tonight. Augustus has not been alone in this thing for 3 summers, Doc. He has men. I do not know how many. I do not know which ones. But I know the road from town to my ranch has eyes on it from the moment you leave the Cedar Falls limits. The river bottom is mud. The river bottom does not have eyes. The doctor put on his coat. He picked up his bag. He stopped at the door. Nathaniel. Yeah. If I am not back by sunup, you will be back, Doc. If I am not, you will be. The doctor nodded, slow, once. He went. The bolt slid behind him. Eliza watched the door for a long moment after it closed. Nathaniel. Yes. There are two. He turned. Two what? Two horses. The room went quiet. Eliza. Two horses, Nathaniel. On the shelf. There are two of them. What are you talking about? She closed her eyes. A tear slid out. She wiped it with the back of her hand. After the first year, after Caleb's 5th birthday, he cried so much for me. Old Silas Goodwin told me when I met him in the hills outside Laramie. The boy slept with the horse every night. The boy carried the horse to the supper table. The boy would not let go of it. Eliza, I asked Silas to have the ranch carpenter make another one just like it, so that if anything happened to the first one, if it broke, if the boy lost it, there would be another. The boy would not lose his mama twice. Nathaniel sat down hard on the edge of the bed. Eliza. Yes. There are two horses on Caleb's shelf. Yes, Nathaniel. And one of them has your letter in it. Yes. And one of them is empty. Yes. How does the boy know which is which? She turned her head. She looked at Caleb on the pillow beside her. Sweet boy. Yes, Mama. Do you know which horse is Mama's horse? The boy reached into his small, wet coat pocket. The coat had been on the chair by the bed. The chair was beside the headboard. The boy reached down. He pulled out a wooden horse, small, brown, one painted eye. The paint a little worn on the nose where a child had rubbed it for 3 summers. This one, Mama. The room stopped breathing. Caleb. Yes, Papa. That horse. Yes, Papa. That horse has been in your pocket all day. Yes, Papa. I put it there this morning, before we came to town. I put it there because today was a Tuesday. Mama always came back in my dreams on Tuesdays, so I brought her with me, in case. Eliza Whitlock put her face in her son's hair and wept. Nathaniel reached across his son. He took the wooden horse in his palm. He held it like a man holds a small bird. He turned the head 3 times to the left. He pulled. Gentle. The belly opened. A folded piece of paper fell into his hand. He unfolded it. He read it. He read it twice. The second time, he read it out loud. His voice was steady until it was not. To my son Caleb, from his mother. If you are reading this, then Mama is gone. I want you to know I did not leave you. Mr. Augustus Beaumont came to our kitchen this morning. He told me your father has been ruined. He says I must let your Aunt Adeline be buried in my name. He says he will save your father and you. I do not know if I believe him, but I do not know what else to do. If I do not come home, my son, know that I went away to save you, and that the man who told me to go is named Augustus Beaumont. I love you, Caleb, more than my life, more than my own breath. Your mother, Eliza Ashford Whitlock, dated the morning of June the 9th, 1872. The room was silent. The rain on the roof was a soft, even sound. Nathaniel folded the paper. He held it to his chest. He did not speak for a long time. Eliza, yes, you wrote this, with Adeline still warm, in the next room. Yes, you wrote this, knowing they would come for you within the hour. Yes, you wrote this, for our boy, for a day you did not know would ever come. Yes. He put his hand over hers on the quilt. Eliza Ashford Whitlock. Yes. I have not been the man I should have been, Nathaniel. I have not. I have eaten Sunday supper for 3 years with the man who took you from me, and I never knew, because I did not look. I did not look at the woman on the church steps last Christmas. I did not look at the shape in the alley behind Henson's last August. Any of them might have been you. Husband. Yes. You are looking now. He took her hand and pressed it to his mouth. The door of the room shook. 3 sharp knocks, then 2 slow ones. Nathaniel was on his feet with his pistol drawn before the second slow knock finished. Who? Mr. Whitlock. It is Sheriff Mercer. Alone. Alone, sir. Nathaniel slid the bolt back. The sheriff came in fast. He had rain in his beard. He had mud halfway up his boots. He had a paper folded in his coat pocket. Nathaniel. Jacob. He is gone. What? He is gone, Nathaniel. Who? Augustus. Nathaniel went still. Jacob. He was in your jailhouse 1 hour ago. He was. With 2 deputies on the door. He was. How? The sheriff took the paper from his pocket. He laid it on the small table beside the bed. They came in through the back, Nathaniel. 4 men. Long rifles. Faces wrapped. They had the deputies on the floor before the deputies had their pistols out. They cut Augustus out of the cell with a key one of them had in his hand. A key. Yes. Where did they get the key? Nathaniel. Where Jacob? The sheriff was quiet. My deputy Henry's wife. She has a sister. Married to a man who works the lumber yard. The lumber yard. Whose mortgage? Augustus bought up in 1874. Jacob. Yes. How deep? I do not know yet, Nathaniel. I do not know how deep. I have ridden in from the jailhouse. The deputies are alive. They are bound. They are in their right minds. Augustus is gone. He took the road south. South. Toward the Colorado line. Jacob. Yes. He is not going to Colorado. I do not think he is either. He is coming back. He will come back. He will not leave a thing unfinished. Not a man like Augustus Beaumont. He has been working at this for 3 years. He will come back to take what he came for. Nathaniel looked at his wife. Eliza was watching him. Her hand was on her son's head. Her eyes were calm, calmer than they had been all day. Nathaniel, yes, he is coming for Caleb. I know. Not for me, I know. Augustus does not need me, Nathaniel. He never needed me. He needed me gone. He needs the boy, Eliza. Augustus does not have a child. I know. Augustus has not had a child, not one that lived. He told me once, at our supper table, 2 summers ago, before I left, he said, "There is no greater grief in this life than to be the last of a name." Eliza. He has been building for Caleb the whole time. Not the ranch, not the money. Caleb. Sheriff Mercer let out a slow breath. That is a sick thing to say out loud. It is a sick thing he has been doing, Jacob. Eliza, yes. He has named our boy in his will. Nathaniel turned to her so fast that the bed creaked. What? Last summer. Eliza, how could you know that? Because I cleaned the house of the lawyer who drew up the papers. For 2 weeks. I scrubbed Lawyer Pendleton's floors. I emptied his ash buckets. I read the corner of a document on his desk while I was waxing the wood. Eliza, Augustus Beaumont named Caleb Whitlock the sole heir of the Beaumont estate. In the event of the death of Nathaniel Whitlock, which was to be assumed, within 5 years of the date of the document. The sheriff sat down on the chair by the wall. He put his head in his hands. Within 5 years. Yes, Jacob. He was going to kill me. Yes, Nathaniel. He was going to kill you. After he had gotten close enough to the boy, that the boy would not know that his uncle Augustus was the reason. The room held its breath. The wind picked up against the window glass. Somewhere below in the kitchen, a kettle whistled and was taken off the stove. A long minute passed. Then a softer knock came at the door. Not 3 sharp, not the signal. A soft, single tap. Then another. Then a third. Nathaniel raised his pistol. Who? The voice on the other side was a woman's. Mr. Whitlock. Who? Mr. Whitlock. It is Cordelia Beaumont. The room went still. Sheriff Mercer was on his feet. Eliza had gone white. Nathaniel did not lower the pistol. Mrs. Beaumont, may I come in? Are you alone? I am alone, Mr. Whitlock. I walked. I do not have an umbrella. I do not have a coat. I have a box. A box? Yes. He looked at the sheriff. The sheriff looked at the door. The sheriff drew his own pistol. He nodded. Nathaniel slid the bolt. Cordelia Beaumont stepped into the room, 55 years old, gray hair down her back in a loose braid, wet to the bone, a nightdress under a thin shawl, house slippers full of mud. Her face was the color of paper. Her eyes were the color of paper. She was carrying a wooden box. The box was about the size of a small Bible. It had a brass clasp. The clasp had been opened. She walked straight to the bed. She did not look at Sheriff Mercer. She did not look at Nathaniel. She walked to the bed. She looked at Eliza Whitlock. Mrs. Whitlock. Cordelia. I have been a coward. Eliza did not answer. She watched. For 52 years, Mrs. Whitlock, I have been a coward. I was 3 years old when my mother brought me to the Beaumont parlor for the first time. He was 21 then. He had already chosen me. My father owed his father a debt. I did not know that until I was 19. They held me for 16 years. They held me on a shelf, like a thing you have already paid for. Eliza did not move. I was 21 when we married. He was 39. He had outlived his first wife. I was the second. He did not love me. He was very clear, from the first month, that he had not married me for love. He had married me to make sons, and I lost 4. 4 Mrs. Whitlock, 3 of them in the womb, 1 of them at 8 days old, a boy. We named him Henry, after my father. The fever took him in his crib, and after that, he stopped speaking to me of love. He stopped speaking to me of children. He stopped speaking to me of anything but the household accounts. She set the box on the bed. She slid it across the quilt with both hands. She did not look up. I have known about your sister for 3 years, Mrs. Whitlock. Cordelia. I was in the kitchen the morning he came home from your ranch. I was making bread. He came in. He did not see me. He went into his study. He shut the door. He sat at his desk. He made a sound. What sound? He laughed, Mrs. Whitlock. The room was so quiet you could hear the wood of the hotel settling. He laughed, and he poured himself a glass, and he said out loud to the empty room, "It is done." And I did not know then what was done, but I knew, by the laugh, that something had been done that should not have been done. And I went up to bed, and I prayed, and I did not ask, because I had been a coward all my life, because the price of asking was a thing I had decided long ago I would not pay. Cordelia. And when they brought your sister back to be buried in your name, I knew. Mrs. Whitlock, I knew it was not you in that box. I had eaten with you both. I had had you both at my Easter table the spring before. I knew which of you had the scar on the chin from the fall off the pony when you were 9. Eliza closed her eyes. A tear came down her cheek. You knew. I knew, Mrs. Whitlock. And I sat in the pew at the funeral, and I sang the hymns, and I cried real tears, because I was crying for your sister, and I was crying for you, wherever he had sent you. And I was crying for myself, for the woman who had decided that she would survive, Cordelia. And then he started bringing your boy to the house. Nathaniel had not moved. He brought Caleb to my parlor on Sundays. He held him on his knee. He taught him to play checkers on my kitchen table. He fed him cookies from my own oven. He sat in my chair with your son in his lap, Mrs. Whitlock, and he smiled at me over the boy's head. And I knew, Mrs. Whitlock, I knew. Cordelia. And I did not speak. For 2 more years I did not speak, because I had forgotten that I had ever been a girl with a name of my own before he gave me his. She opened the box. Inside, neat and stacked and tied with brown twine, were 100 pieces of paper. "What is that?" Nathaniel said. "That is 52 years of my husband, Mr. Whitlock. Mrs. Beaumont. Names, dates, amounts, every man in this county whose paper he holds, every favor he has called in, every threat he has made on a back porch, every letter he ever wrote to a man, and then asked me to copy in my hand, because his lawyer would recognize his own. Every account, every name, every debt, every threat, every plan, every page he ever asked me to write, or to file, or to put in the safe, or to keep from being seen." She looked up at Eliza. Her eyes were not wet now. Her eyes were clear. "I have been waiting, Mrs. Whitlock, for 3 years. I have been waiting to know if you were still alive, and I have been waiting to be brave. I am not brave yet, but I will not be a coward any longer. So I'm giving you this. Bury him with his own hand." Eliza Whitlock reached out across the bed. She took Cordelia Beaumont's hand. The 2 women looked at each other for a long moment. "Cordelia, yes, you walked across town in the rain, in a nightdress, to bring me this." "Yes, Mrs. Whitlock." "Why tonight?" "Because he is loose, Mrs. Whitlock. The deputies' wives came to my back door an hour ago to warn me to lock my doors because my husband is loose. And I knew, the moment I heard, that he will come for the boy. And I knew that I could not let him." The 2 women held hands across the quilt. Caleb was watching them. Eliza turned to her son. "Caleb." "Yes, Mama." "Do you remember Mrs. Beaumont?" "Yes, Mama. She gave me cookies. She is going to help Mama, baby. She is going to help Mama keep you safe." The boy looked at Cordelia Beaumont. He looked at her in the way only a 7-year-old child can look at an adult. Long, steady, without judgment. "Mrs. Beaumont." "Yes, child." "Are you a bad lady?" The room held its breath. Cordelia did not look away. "I have been a coward, child, for a very long time. But I am not a bad lady. Not tonight." "All right." The boy reached out his small hand. He laid it on top of hers. "Mama says you are helping, so I will help too." Cordelia Beaumont put her face in her free hand and wept. She wept the way a woman weeps when she has been waiting half her life for a small hand to lay itself on top of her own and forgive her a thing she has only just begun to admit. Nathaniel stood at the foot of the bed. He turned to Sheriff Mercer. "Jacob." "Yes." "In the morning, you ring the church bell." "All right." "You ring it long, you ring it loud. You wake every soul in this town, and you bring them to the meeting hall. All right. Not the church, the meeting hall. The church has a deacon Augustus owns. The meeting hall has no clergy. The meeting hall has chairs and a long table and a door that locks. Nathaniel. And you stand at that door, Jacob. You and 4 men I will give you. And you do not let one living soul leave that meeting hall until my wife has spoken. All right, Nathaniel. And Jacob. Yes. You bring Walter Thornton. By force if you have to. By force, Nathaniel. By force, Jacob. I want him at the front of the room. I want him to look at the woman whose 3 letters he stamped. The sheriff nodded. He turned to go. He stopped at the door. Nathaniel. Yes. This is not the end of it. I know it is not Jacob. He is loose. He has men. He has been planning this for 3 years, and he has been planning for the day he might be loose. He will come back. I know he will. He will not come back alone. I know that too. The sheriff went. The bolt slid home behind him. The rain on the window had softened to a whisper. Somewhere out in the dark of Cedar Falls, a horse whinnied. A door slammed. A man called another man's name. A wagon rolled. The town did not sleep. Cordelia Beaumont stayed. She sat in the chair by the foot of the bed. She did not speak again that night. She only held the wooden box on her lap, like a woman holds a thing she has carried for a long time and just put down for the first time. Caleb fell asleep against his mother. The wooden horse was in his fist. Eliza Whitlock watched her son sleep. She watched him a long time. Nathaniel. Yes. He will not come alone. I know. Augustus does not come alone, Nathaniel. He comes with men. He comes with the men he has bought, and the men he has frightened, and the men he has held the paper over for years. I know Eliza. He will pick a place. He will. He will pick a place that means something. He will. He will pick the Henson Building. Nathaniel turned. Eliza. Yes. Why the Henson? Because that is where I sat in the rain, with the empty palm, while you walked past me, Nathaniel, with our son, while you bought him a sugar stick. Eliza, he will pick the Henson because he wants you to walk back to that corner, to stand there, and know what you walk past. He wants you to know before he takes the boy. Nathaniel sat down on the bed. He did not speak for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was quiet. Then that is where we will meet him. Nathaniel. That is where it will end, Eliza. On the corner of Main and Cottonwood, in front of the Henson, where you sat, where I walked past, where the town watched. That is where Augustus Beaumont and the men who took 3 summers from us are going to learn that the woman they buried is still standing. Eliza took his hand. She lifted it to her cheek. She closed her eyes. Outside the hotel window in the dark of Cedar Falls, a single rider was on the South Road already. He had been riding for an hour. He was riding fast. He carried a message from Augustus Beaumont to a man in a saloon in Laramie. The message had 2 names on it. The first name was Cole Ransom. The second name was a name Augustus had not used in 20 years. A name that lived in a brick house in Cheyenne and had 4 sons. And owed Augustus Beaumont a favor from before the war. The message said one word: tomorrow. The bell rang at sunup. It rang longer than any Cedar Falls bell had ever rung on a Wednesday morning. It rang the way a bell rings when a town has had its sleep broken by something it cannot put a name to. And it rang and rang and rang until the whole of the county had pulled on its boots and come down out of the houses and down out of the barns and down off the porches and into Main Street in the wet morning light. The meeting hall filled. It filled past the chairs. It filled past the wall. It filled past the doors. There were men standing on the front steps in the wet. There were women holding babies on their hips in the back. There were ranch hands with hay still in their beards. There was a deacon with a Bible under his arm. There was a banker named Walter Thornton with his head down, and Sheriff Jacob Mercer's hand on his elbow. There was old Silas Goodwin standing by the side door with a shotgun across his arm. There was Cordelia Beaumont in the front row, in a clean blue dress, hair pinned up, the wooden box on her lap. There was Eliza Whitlock at the front of the room. She was thin. She was tired. She had washed her hair. She had put on a dress Doc Holloway's wife had brought to the hotel at dawn. She had Caleb's hand in hers. She had her husband at her left. And she had 3 years of mining camps and church alleys and rain and silence stacked up behind her like a wall. She stepped forward. She did not raise her voice. She did not have to. My name. The room hushed. My name is Eliza Ashford Whitlock. A woman in the third row gasped. A man near the door took off his hat. The deacon set his Bible down on the chair beside him and folded his hands. I was born in Ashford Springs. I married Nathaniel Whitlock in the spring of 1863. I bore him a son in the summer of 1868. I was buried in this town in the summer of 1872. And I am standing in front of you this morning, 3 summers later, because the woman in that grave is not me. The room did not breathe. My sister Adeline came to my ranch in the spring of 72. She fell sick within a week. She died in my arms on a Tuesday morning before the sun came up. She did not cry. She had cried all her tears in the night. Her last words to me were, "Sister, do not let Caleb forget me." A woman near the door began to weep, quietly, with her hand over her mouth. That same morning, before my husband returned from a cattle drive, Judge Augustus Beaumont came to my kitchen door. The room shifted. A current went through it. A small motion all at once of 200 shoulders straightening. He told me my husband had been ruined. He told me Nathaniel had signed papers he should not have signed. He told me there was a debt of $30,000 in my husband's name and mine. He told me the bankers were coming. He told me the law would take Caleb from me, because the debt was on my dowry as well as my husband's name. She paused. He told me there was one way. She lifted her chin. He told me to let my sister be buried in my name. He told me to disappear. He told me the bankers would write the debt off against a dead woman. He told me my husband would survive. He told me My son would keep his home. Walter Thornton was looking at the floor. There was no debt. The room broke. It broke the way water breaks over a dam. Voices rose. A man at the back shouted. A woman in the third row stood. The deacon put both hands flat on the table in front of him and let out a breath that came from the bottom of his chest. There was no debt. There never was a debt. There was a man, and there was my boy, and there was a plan, 3 years old, to take my son from his mother and from his father, and to make him a Beaumont, because there was no Beaumont left to make any other way. Cordelia stood up. She did not speak. She stood up. She held the box. She looked at the room. A man in the back called, "Where's the proof, Mrs. Whitlock?" Eliza turned to her son. "Caleb." "Yes, Mama." "Show them the horse." The boy held it up. Brown, small, one painted eye. The whole room could see the chip on the nose where a child had rubbed it for 3 summers. "Now, sweet boy." The boy turned the head 3 times to the left. He pulled. Gentle. The belly opened. The folded paper fell into his hand. The room inhaled all at once. Caleb gave the paper to his mother. His mother gave it to Nathaniel. Nathaniel unfolded it. He held it up. He read it. He read it slow. He read it loud. He read every word. When he was done, he laid it on the table at the front of the room. He stepped back. The deacon stood up. He walked to the table. He looked at the paper for a long moment. He put on his spectacles. He bent over it. He read it himself. He straightened. He turned to the room. It is her hand. Silence. It is dated Brothers and Sisters, the morning of June the 9th, 1872. The morning we buried Adeline Ashford, in Eliza Whitlock's name. A man behind Walter Thornton cursed under his breath. Cordelia Beaumont set her wooden box on the table next to the letter. She opened it. She lifted out the top page. My name. The room turned to her. My name is Cordelia Marie Beaumont. I am 55 years old. She did not look at her husband's empty chair on the front row. She looked at the room. In this box are 114 pages, written in my husband's hand and in mine, filed by his order, kept by his instruction, held against the day he would need them to call in the favors of every man in this county whose paper he bought up in the last 3 years. She set the page down on the table. She placed her hand on the stack. His plan, brothers and sisters, was to take a boy so that his line would not end with him. The cost of his plan was a woman sitting in the rain on the corner of Main and Cottonwood for 3 summers while the town walked past. A woman in the second row let out a sound that was not quite a word. Cordelia turned to Eliza. I am sorry, Mrs. Whitlock. Cordelia, I sat at your funeral. I sang the hymns. I knew it was your sister in the box. I did not say a word. For 3 years, I did not say a word. Mrs. Beaumont, Mrs. Whitlock. Eliza walked across the front of the room. She took the other woman's hand. You said it this morning, Cordelia. The two women stood together at the front of the meeting hall. 200 people watched. No one moved. A horse came up Main Street at a hard gallop. Sheriff Mercer's deputy. Hat off, coat open. He shoved through the meeting hall doors. He came down the aisle with his boots hammering the boards. Sheriff. Henry. Sheriff. What? Telegram. From the Colorado line. 3 hours ago. Henry. Out with it. Augustus is coming back. The room went still. He is 6 miles south. He is riding at a walk. He has 4 men with him. One of them is Cole Ransom. The other 3, sir. The other 3. The wire from Cheyenne says. The other 3 are from a brick house in Cheyenne with a name on the door that a sheriff in Cheyenne has been wanting in a courtroom for 10 years. Sheriff Mercer closed his eyes for 1 second. He opened them. How long? He will be here by sundown, Sheriff. All right. Mercer turned to the room. He raised his voice for the first time that morning. Brothers, sisters, the man we are talking about is on the South Road. He is coming back. He is coming back with shooters. He will be at the edge of this town at sundown. I do not have enough deputies. I have 4 men. He has 5, maybe 6. He has been buying gun hands for 3 summers. I do not know who he has bought in this town. And I do not know who he has bought between here and the Colorado line. He paused. If you have ever owed Augustus Beaumont a thing, if he has ever held a paper on your house, if he has ever lent your son $1, if you have ever sat at his Sunday table, I am asking you to pick a side. This morning, right here, in this room, before he gets back to this town, because if you do not pick a side, he will pick one for you. By sundown. A long moment. A very long moment. Then a man in the 3rd row stood up. It was Mr. Pendleton, the lawyer. White-haired. 68 years old. He had been in Augustus Beaumont's parlor for Christmas every year since 1859. He had drawn up the papers naming Caleb Whitlock, the Beaumont heir. He had not slept a whole night since. I will swear in, Sheriff. A woman behind him stood up. The deacon's wife, carrying a basket. I will swear in, Sheriff. Doc Holloway, standing in the back, bag in hand. I will swear in. Walter Thornton, slow, looking at his shoes, then looking up. I will swear in. A ripple, then a wave, then a whole tide. 200 people, one after the other, standing. Old Silas Goodwin, Lawyer Pendleton, the deacon, the deacon's wife with her basket, Mr. Pierce, who ran the freight office, Mrs. Coombs, who ran the boarding house, 3 ranch hands from the Whitlock outfit, 2 men from the lumber yard, the young hand who tended the Beaumont garden, the cook from the saloon, a woman with a baby on her hip, another with 2 children at her skirt. the young school teacher from the one-room school, and Cordelia Beaumont, holding her box. I will swear in Sheriff Mercer. Sheriff Jacob Mercer swore them in. Right hand up, left hand on whatever they had. A hat, a Bible, a saddle horn, the back of a chair. Cordelia swore on the box. By noon, Cedar Falls had a 100-man posse. By 2, they were positioned. By 3, the streets of Maine and Cottonwood were quiet. In a way, they had not been quiet since the war. Nathaniel walked Eliza back to the hotel. She did not speak on the walk. She did not speak on the stairs. In the room, she sat down on the edge of the bed. She did not lie down. Eliza, yes, you have to rest. I cannot rest. Eliza, Nathaniel. He sat down beside her. He took her hand. There is one more thing. Yes. Adeline. Yes. She was in my arms when she died. And I did not get to say goodbye to her. Not really. I had 3 minutes. I had 3 minutes to close her eyes and kiss her forehead and pull the sheet up to her chin. And then Augustus was at the door, and the men were behind him, and they took her out the back, and they put her in my box, and I have never, Nathaniel, I have never sat at her grave. I have never put flowers on her stone. I have never said her name out loud in a churchyard, because her stone says my name. Nathaniel could not speak for a moment. Eliza, yes, I have something to tell you. What? I had a stonemason in Cheyenne start a new stone last night while you slept. What? I sent the order by wire before dawn. A new stone with her name on it. Adeline Ashford, 1843 to 1872. Sister, friend, aunt of Caleb Whitlock. Buried wrongly, remembered rightly. She put her face in her hands. She wept the way a woman weeps when she has been waiting 3 summers to put flowers on her sister's grave, and has only just been told that the grave will at last have the right name on it. He held her. He held her a long time. The clock on the hotel mantel ticked. The light through the window turned gold. The afternoon turned. The afternoon went. The sun was a finger above the western ridge. Nathaniel stood up. Eliza, it is time. Yes. Caleb, the boy, was sitting in the chair by the bed. Yes, Mama. You are going with Mr. Goodwin. Mama, you are going to the smokehouse behind the Hotel Baby. Mr. Goodwin set it up this morning. He cleared it out. He has a stool inside. He is going to lock the door. You are going to stay in there until your papa or your mama come and unlock it. Mama, no. Caleb, Mama, I will not. Sweet boy. Mama, I am the man of this room. You said until I came back. Papa said, I am the man. Nathaniel knelt down in front of his son. Caleb, Papa, son. The man of the room is not always the man with the gun in the street. Papa, the man of the room is the man who keeps the door locked so that the people he loves can do their work without being afraid for him. Do you understand? The boy did not answer for a long time. Then he nodded. Once. Very small. Yes, Papa. You take the horse, son. Yes, Papa. You hold on to it. Yes, Papa. Old Silas Goodwin was at the door. He took the boy's hand. The boy did not cry. He walked out of the hotel room with his small back straight. The door closed. The bolt slid. Eliza put her hand over her mouth. Nathaniel. He is safe. Nathaniel. He is safe, Eliza. Silas would burn before he opened that door. I know. It is time. She nodded. She stood up. She put on a clean shawl. Blue. The same blue as the dress she had worn the morning she sat down in the mud on the corner of Main and Cottonwood. She did not pick up a gun. She had told Nathaniel she would not carry one. He did not argue. They went down the stairs. They went out the front door of the hotel. The sun was low. Main Street was empty. Main Street was empty in the way only a western town is ever empty. The kind of empty that has 100 sets of eyes in it. Eyes behind window glass. Eyes on rooftops. Eyes in the saloon door. Eyes in the bell tower of the church. Eyes in the upstairs window of Cordelia Beaumont's own house at the end of Maple Street. Cordelia Beaumont was in that upstairs window with a Spencer rifle laid across the sill, loaded. She had not held a rifle in 40 years. She had not forgotten how. A rider came up Main Street at a slow walk. A small chestnut horse, a black coat, a hat with rain on the brim. 4 riders behind him. One on his right was Cole Ransom. The other 3 were strangers. Big men. Beard. Rifles across the saddle. Pistols on the hip. Augustus Beaumont reined in. In front of the Henson building. He looked up the street. He looked down the street. He did not see one soul. Mrs. Whitlock, the voice carried. Mrs. Whitlock, I know you are here. The wind picked up his coat at the hem. Mrs. Whitlock, I rode 300 miles to say this to your face. I have a man on the South Road. If I am not on a horse riding back south within the hour, that man burns down the schoolhouse in Laramie, where your boy was to be sent next year. Mrs. Whitlock, do you hear me? The saloon doors did not move. The hotel doors did not move. Then the front door of the hotel opened. Eliza Whitlock stepped out into the dirt of Main Street in a blue shawl, no gun. She walked to the corner of Main and Cottonwood. She walked to the very spot in the boards where she had sat for the better part of a wet afternoon yesterday, with an empty palm. While her husband walked past, she stopped. 20 feet from Augustus Beaumont's horse, she lifted her chin. Augustus? Mrs. Whitlock, you came a long way for a conversation. He smiled. It was a thinner smile than the porch smile, a hungrier smile, a smile that had not eaten in 3 days. Mrs. Whitlock, yes. I want you to know, yes. I do not regret it. I did not expect you to. I love that boy, Mrs. Whitlock. I had no one to give my name to. I held him on my knee. I taught him to play checkers. I bought him a wooden train for his birthday. I would have raised him. I would have given him my name. I would have given him my land. I would have given him every Beaumont thing there ever was. Eliza did not move. Augustus. Yes. That is not love. Mrs. Whitlock. Love does not take a mother from her child. Mrs. Whitlock. I gave the boy a father. He had a father, Augustus. He had a man who walked past beggars in the rain, Mrs. Whitlock. He had a man who would have made him hard. I would have made him loved. Eliza took one step forward. One step closer. You are wrong, Augustus. I do not think I am Mrs. Whitlock. I sat on that boardwalk for 3 summers, and I learned a thing, Augustus. Not about my husband, about you. Yes. You did not take a son who was unloved. Mrs. Whitlock, you took a son who was loved by a man who did not know how to look down. She took another step. And when my husband looked down, Augustus, when he finally looked down, he pulled me up out of the mud. He carried me up the stairs of a hotel. He sat in a hallway in his own wet coat. And he sent for the woman who scrubbed Lawyer Pendleton's floors. And he ordered a stone for my sister. And he stood in front of you. And he said, "Step out onto the porch." Augustus Beaumont's smile was gone. Mrs. Whitlock, that was love, Augustus. You are very simple. I am very simple. Yes. And that is what you missed. About my husband, and about me, and about Cordelia. We are very simple, and we have been waiting. He moved his hand, slow, toward the pistol on his hip. One of his own men cleared his throat. "Judge." It was Cole Ransom. "Judge, sir, a word." Cole Ransom turned his horse a quarter turn. He took off his hat. He looked at Augustus Beaumont. "Judge." "Cole, 3 summers ago you promised me $500 to take Mrs. Whitlock to a mining camp west of Denver. Cole, this is not the moment. You never paid me, Judge." "Cole." "Yesterday, Mrs. Beaumont sent a boy to find me in Laramie. She offered me $1,000 to ride with you up Main Street and to do exactly what I am doing right now." The judge went still. "Cole." "I took the 1,000, Judge." "Cole, we are old friends." "You did not pay me, Judge." Augustus Beaumont's hand was on his pistol now. He drew. He turned toward Eliza. His arm came up. But before the pistol came level, before his finger pulled the trigger, before the hammer fell, a single shot rang out from the second-floor balcony of the Cedar Falls Hotel. It was a small report, a child's gun, a small-caliber rabbit rifle, the kind old Silas Goodwin kept in the back of the smokehouse to scare off coyotes, the kind a 7-year-old boy could lift. The shot was high. The shot was wide. The shot did not hit Augustus Beaumont. The shot hit the cottonwood post 6 inches behind Augustus Beaumont's left ear. A small chunk of yellow wood flew off the post and landed in the dirt. Augustus Beaumont's horse spooked, reared. Through him. He hit the boards of the boardwalk in front of the Henson. His pistol clattered out of his hand and skidded into a puddle. Cole Ransom and the 3 Cheyenne men had their rifles on him before he sat up. A second later, Sheriff Mercer came out of the bank with 4 deputies. A second after that, the rooftops opened. 40 rifles, 40 men, 40 women in upstairs windows. The deacon's wife with a basket of bread in one hand and a shotgun in the other. Doc Holloway with a Colt revolver and a black leather bag. Lawyer Pendleton with a shotgun he had not held in 15 years. Old Silas Goodwin coming out of the alley behind the hotel with the smokehouse key in one fist and a Henry rifle in the other. And up on the balcony of the Cedar Falls Hotel, in the wet evening light, stood a 7-year-old boy in a too big coat, holding a small rabbit rifle, holding the wooden horse in his other hand, his face streaked with tears. "Mama," Eliza turned. She looked up at the balcony. "Caleb, Mama, sweet boy. Mama, I would not let him. I would not let him take you again." She put her hand over her mouth. She ran. She ran in her blue shawl across the dirt of Main Street and through the front door of the Cedar Falls Hotel and up the stairs 3 at a time and out onto the balcony. She caught her son in her arms. She lifted him off her feet. The rabbit rifle dropped to the floor of the balcony. The wooden horse stayed in his fist. She held him. She held him until he stopped shaking. "Mama." "Yes, baby." "I shot the post." "You shot the post?" "On purpose, Mama." Mr. Goodwin said, "Aim high, aim wide. The horse will spook. Aim for the post." "On purpose, sweet boy." "On purpose, Mama." She put her face in his hair. She cried. She cried the way a mother cries when she has spent 3 summers walking 3 territories on foot to come home to a son who has just saved her life. With a single shot, at 7 years old, from the balcony of the only hotel in Cedar Falls. Down in the street, Sheriff Mercer was putting the cuffs on Augustus Beaumont for the 2nd time in 2 days. Augustus was not smiling. He looked up. He looked up at the woman on the balcony with the boy in her arms. He did not speak. He did not have to. The judge came up from Cheyenne on the train 2 days later. The trial was held in the meeting hall. The courthouse roof still leaked. The hall was full. The pews were full. The front steps were full. Half the county was in town. The trial took 2 days. Cordelia Beaumont testified for 6 hours. She read pages out of the wooden box. Names, dates, amounts, letters in her husband's hand, letters in her own hand at his order. The whole crooked map of 52 years. She did not cry once. When the judge from Cheyenne asked her if she had anything to add, she folded her hands in her lap and said one sentence. "I am Cordelia Marie. I am 55 years old. I have time." The Cheyenne judge sentenced Augustus Beaumont to hang. The hanging was set for the Tuesday morning after. Cordelia did not come. She did not come to the yard behind the jailhouse. She did not come to the church for the prayer service before. She did not come to the cemetery after. She was at home. She made coffee. She drank it at her kitchen table. She said to her empty kitchen, "This is mine." And it was. The fall came on. The carpenters came back to the corner of Main and Cottonwood. They finished the new building on the lot. They put a roof on it that did not leak. They put 6 beds in the upstairs. They put a long pine table in the downstairs. They put a stove that could feed 20. On the lintel above the front door, a stonemason from Cheyenne carved a single name, deep, so that no rain in 100 years would wash it off. Adeline. Below the name, a smaller carving, in hand-painted letters that Eliza Whitlock herself had written on a piece of butcher paper for the painter. No woman is turned away. No child eats last. No one pays for bread. The first woman who came was a widow from a homestead 20 miles east. Her husband had died in the spring. The bank had taken the place. She had 2 children and a flour sack of clothes. Eliza took her by the hand and led her inside. The second woman came 2 days later. She had walked from Laramie. She was missing 2 teeth and the use of her left arm. Eliza gave her a bed. By Thanksgiving, there were 9 women and 14 children sleeping under the roof of Adeline House every night. Cordelia Beaumont ran the upstairs. Doc Holloway came twice a week. He charged no one. He never had. Nathaniel had bought the paper on his house from Augustus Beaumont's estate and torn it up on the front step of the parsonage in front of 3 witnesses. The deacon's wife cooked 4 mornings a week. Lawyer Pendleton drew up papers for any woman who wanted them. He charged no one. He put a small frame page on the wall of his office. The page had a single name on it, Hattie Brooks. He had asked Eliza very quiet what color the woman's eyes had been. Eliza had told him. He read the name every morning of the rest of his life, before he opened his ledgers. The first snow came in November. Walter Thornton came to the Whitlock Ranch on a cold afternoon. He had a hat in his hand. He had been weeping. He stood in the parlor and looked at the floor and could not look up. Mrs. Whitlock. Mr. Thornton. Mrs. Whitlock, I came to ask. You came to ask what? For forgiveness. The room was quiet. Eliza Whitlock sat in the rocking chair by the fire. She did not put her sewing down. Mr. Thornton. Ma'am. Do you remember a woman named Hattie Brooks? He blinked. I beg your pardon, Mrs. Whitlock. Hattie Brooks, Mr. Thornton, in a mining camp west of Denver. In the winter of '73, she bought a wool coat off a beggar woman for $2, so that she could buy milk for her 3 children. She wore that coat to the well one evening. The men Augustus sent to find me. They thought she was me. Mrs. Whitlock. They beat her unconscious, Mr. Thornton, with the butt of a rifle. She lost the use of her left eye. She did not die. She has 3 children. He did not speak. You wrote her a paper, Mr. Thornton, without knowing her. You wrote it on the back of every letter you stamped recipient deceased for 3 summers. Mrs. Whitlock, I want you to write her name on a piece of paper tonight before you sleep. I want you to put that piece of paper in your bedside drawer. I want you to read that name every morning of your life until your last morning. And I want you to send $50 a month to Adeline House from this November forward until the month you die, Mrs. Whitlock. That is my answer, Mr. Thornton. He did not lift his head. Yes, ma'am. That is the only answer I have. Yes, Mrs. Whitlock. He left. He sold the bank to a man from Tucson within the month. He took a train east. He sent $50 to Adeline House on the first of every month for the rest of his life. He never missed a month. He died with a piece of paper on his bedside table. The paper had a single name on it: Hattie Brooks, underlined 3 times, in his own hand. It was the last thing he ever wrote. The winter passed. The spring came. In April of 1876, Nathaniel and Eliza Whitlock rode out to the Cedar Falls churchyard on a morning with a soft, cold wind. They brought Caleb. They brought a tarp. They brought 2 ranch hands with a wagon. They brought a new stone. They stood at the grave. They lifted the old stone out of the ground. It was a heavy white stone with the words Eliza Ashford Whitlock carved into it. They laid it on the wagon. They did not break it. They wrapped it in burlap. Nathaniel had decided, he did not know why, to keep it. They set the new stone in the ground. The stone read, Adeline Ashford, 1843 to 1872, beloved sister, beloved aunt, buried wrongly, remembered rightly. Eliza knelt in the wet grass. She laid a small bunch of yellow wildflowers at the foot of the stone. She did not weep this time. Adeline. The wind moved in the cottonwoods. Adeline. I am sorry. I let them put you in the wrong name for 3 summers. I let them call you me. I let the deacon read me over you. I let our mother's people pray for me at your grave. I was supposed to be the older sister. I was supposed to know better. I was the older one by 2 minutes, and I forgot to stand between you and the world. She put her hand on the stone. You are Adeline now, sister. The wind moved again. You are home, Adeline. Caleb came up beside her. He put his small hand on the stone. Aunt Adeline? Yes, baby. Mama says you were her best friend. I was sweet boy. Mama says you would have loved me. She would have baby. She did. Then I will love you back, Aunt Adeline, every day. From now on. Out loud. Eliza put her face in her son's hair. Nathaniel stood behind them. He took off his hat. He held it in both hands. He did not speak. He did not have to. The wind moved one more time. It moved like a hand. Across the grass. Across the stone. Across the bowed heads of the 3 living Whitlocks. Across the yellow wildflowers. Across a long, slow Wyoming morning. Across the whole of a county that had walked past a woman in the rain and had finally learned to stop. 10 years later, in the spring of 1886, Caleb Whitlock was 17 years old. He was packing a trunk for Boston. He was leaving for medical school in 3 days. He had been accepted by a professor at the medical college in Boston who had read a letter of recommendation from Dr. Ezekiel Holloway. The letter had said one thing. Once, when this boy was 7 years old, he stood on a balcony in Cedar Falls and aimed high and saved his mother's life with a single shot. I have no doubt he will become a fine doctor. The boy walked through the ranch house He stopped in his old bedroom, the shelf by the window, the 2 wooden horses, one the carpenter's, one his mother's. He picked up his mother's. He turned the head 3 times to the left. He pulled, gentle. The belly opened. A new piece of paper was inside, folded, sealed in fresh wax. He unfolded it. His mother's hand, newer ink. Dated last Sunday. Caleb, my love, when you read this, you will be a man in Boston in a coat I cannot picture. I want you to remember 3 things. 1, your father walked past me in the rain for 3 summers because he had told himself he was not the man to look down. He is the man to look down now. He has been the man to look down for 10 years. People can change. Even the rich. Even the proud. Even the ones who think they know what wealth is. 2, the town that buried me is the town that fed me when I came back. They are the same town. People are not one thing. They are the thing they choose on the worst morning of their lives. 3, when you walk a street in Boston and you see a woman in the rain with her hand out, you stop. You look at her. You ask her name. You do not give her a coin and walk on. You ask her name. Because nobody asked mine for 3 summers. And the day my son asked, the day my husband asked, the day Cordelia Beaumont asked, was the day I came home. Your mother, Eliza. Caleb folded the letter. He put it back in the wooden horse. He sealed the head back on with a candle from his mother's bedroom dresser. He carried the horse downstairs. He walked to the parsonage. Dr. Ezekiel Holloway was on the front porch, 73 years old, reading the paper. The doctor put the paper down. Caleb Whitlock. Doc. Boy, I am leaving for Boston Tuesday. I know. I want you to keep this. He held out the horse. Caleb. Doc, you gave me a kitchen knife when I was 7. I would not be standing on this porch without that knife. I want you to keep this. The old doctor took it. He held it in both hands. He looked at the chip on the painted nose. I will keep it on my nightstand, Caleb. Yes, sir. Until you come home. Yes, sir. Until I come home. The old man lifted his face. His eyes were wet. You come home, Caleb Whitlock. I will, Doc. The boy walked back down the parsonage steps. He walked the length of Main Street. He walked past the corner of Main and Cottonwood. He looked up at the lintel of the building on the corner. Adeline, no woman is turned away. No child eats last. No one pays for bread. His mother was standing in the doorway. His father was beside her. Cordelia Beaumont was inside ladling soup from a pot. A young woman with a baby on her hip was sitting at the long pine table. She was wet from a soft April rain. She had no shoes. She had walked 12 miles up from a homestead nobody remembered the name of. Her child was 3 months old. She did not have a husband anymore. She did not know what to do next. Eliza Whitlock crossed to her, took her hand, sat down beside her, did not say a word for a long moment, then said, "What is your name?" The young woman opened her mouth. Outside, the rain came down on Cedar Falls. The rain came down on the lintel of Adeline House, on the carved name, on the words below the name, on the muddy boards of the corner of Main and Cottonwood, where 14 springs ago, a woman had sat with an empty palm, while the richest man in the county walked past with her son. The rain came down, and inside the warm room, a woman who had been forgotten on that boardwalk asked another woman her name, and waited, and listened. That is what wealth is. That is what a small Wyoming town learned. From a beggar in the rain, and a 7-year-old boy on a hotel balcony, and a wife in a kitchen who finally remembered her own name, and a husband who finally learned to look down. That is the story